come and perform for us, and everybody enjoyed the program so much, and it's just a pleasure to have you both back this year, and we thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you.
So it's a pleasure to be back. How many people were in the house last year? Wow, okay. I mean, yes, and I do remember you too. Yeah. So I'm going to just open up maybe with what we did last year, but then we'll do something different. We'll do some different stories this year, right? So I noticed that the name of the show is Sweet Potato Pie and such, so that's what I'll start with. And of course, to my left here is Mr. James. Y'all remember Mr. James? Here we go. Sweet potato, sweet potato. Buy my sweet potatoes. They're the best sweet potatoes in town. Oh, bake them up, sugar them on down. Sweet potatoes. My sweet potatoes, they taste so good. You gotta eat them up like you know you should. Sweet potato. Who wants to buy my sweet potato? My sweet potato right here, right here? Yes, man. My sweet potato. You get for the time.
Oh, thank you.
My sweet potato. Taste so fine. Sweet potato. So buy by the pound, no sweet potato like this around. Best sweet potatoes up on the block, bake it up, cook it down, butter it high. Sweet potato, #1 ingredient in that pie. Tastes so good, make time to rap die. Sit at the table, eat them up, make time, bust up, really good. Sweet potato, good for mom, it's good for pop. I tell you, they're good for my brother-in-law. Sweet potato. So I guess what we talked about last time, let's talk about it again. How many of you have had sweet potatoes before? Okay, that's everybody in the house. How about yams? Yeah. And we talked about last time that our sweet potatoes and yams the same thing, because some people say, wait a minute, storyteller, you're trying to trick us. Sweet potatoes and yams are the same thing. How many people think that? Okay. How many people say, nah, don't get it twisted. They're different. Who says that? Okay. And then how many people say, I really just don't know? Right. I really just don't know. A lot of us have to say, I really just don't know. And the reason is because when we go to the supermarket here in America, and we're going down the aisle, and we get to the produce section, it says, yams for sale. And guess what they put underneath the sign? Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes and yams are different. Some people said they were different. How do you think they're different? What do you think?
One thing, I think one is lighter than the other.
Okay.
The color.
Okay.
Like the skin is orange and the other and
okay. Lighter. Anybody have anything else? Yes?
I think their taste a little different. From sweet potato is much sweeter.
Okay. Then the yam?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think?
I think the skin is different, a different color too.
You think
The peeling.
the peeling is a little different?
Yes.
Okay. So you're right about it being different. But how different it is much deeper than what you're thinking about. Sweet potatoes and yams come from two totally different continents. Sweet potatoes grow here in North America. Yams come out of West Africa. They are grown in different parts of the diaspora now. They are totally different. And sweet potatoes is what I sold, right? This is part of a yam.
Yeah.
This is a yam. So if the in the can with the blue and the orange sweet potatoes on the front, and it says yams, that's sweet potatoes. And I think what you were thinking about, colors different, it's a little sweeter. You were still thinking about that same kind of look, but no, it's like almost looks like a wood grain out here, and they are huge. They are they're big. Like this is cut. Because that's how they sell them now, but around my way. Because I used to be able to get a whole big one. I probably have to go somewhere else to get it. But these are from West Africa. So if you go to Ghana, you'll see them piled up high, like this high, against trees. Sweet potatoes, as I was selling them, and yams, right? Totally different, but they're both a part of the African and African American culture, as is what we do. We come to tell you stories from that culture and share some stories with you. And I know it's Black History Month this month, and people are celebrating Black history and telling stories. But you know what? I wake up every day, thank God. And when I do, I look at myself and I'm Black. Every day. Every day. Well, they say downstairs, every day. Right?
At nighttime too?
At nighttime too. 24/7. And proud of it, right? So, and I think you should celebrate yourself every day. Every day. And I think we should celebrate all cultures every day. But it does give us a chance to lift up and maybe celebrate some of our, our heroes as well. But always, I think that, in Black history, of course, what happened was, actually February 14th, Mary Church Terrell asked that in Washington, D.C., she asked if it could be Frederick Douglass Day on February 14th. That was the first one. And then, of course, Carter G. Woodson, it was a week. And now we make it a month, right? And but in terms of celebrating Black history, you should do that every day in terms of celebrating who you are, celebrating your cultures, appreciating each other every day. They ran, they stood, I stand, and I am. There's no mystery, Black history. No mystery, Black history. They ran, they stood. Got again. They ran, they stood. I stand, and I am. There's no mystery in Black history. Come on. No mystery in Black history. Try it again. They ran, they stood. I stand, and I am. There's no mystery in Black history. No mystery in Black history. It began in a place of different layers. My ancestral memory is African. The mark of victory runs through my veins. So with pride I raise my voice and I'm given to sing. They ran, they stood, I stand, and I am. There's no mystery in Black history. Come on. No mystery in Black history. Say that again. They ran, they stood, I stand, and I am. There's no mystery in Black history. Woo! No mystery in Black history. They tried to count me out, strip the culture out of town, oppress the language we speak, deny my around the feet, but the rhythm is carried on. So the spirit I sing song. They ran, they stood, I stand, and I am. No mystery in Black history. Come on. No mystery in Black history. Again. They ran, they stood, I stand, and I am. No mystery Womb to womb they pass on our legacy, bringing forth great people who were able to be. Their names unknown may be many, but their deeds and still live all up in me. 'Cause they prayed, they thought, they told, and they taught. So I stand with something majestic to bring. Come on, my people, let me hear you sing. Amen. It's good. I stand, and I am. There's no mystery in that. No mystery in that. Again, come on. Amen. It's good. I stand, and I am. There's no mystery in that. No mystery in that. My flag carries the colors of the indomitable spirit. My anthem is formidable. Can't you hear it? Adored in cream, blue, black, and brown. My crown is king, and it won't lay down. Your broken circle is our ring. For generations we'll sing. But they ran, they stood. I stand, and I am. There's no mystery in black. Come on. No mystery in black. One more time. They ran, they stood. I stand, and I am. There's no mystery in black. Huh, come on. There's no mystery in black. No mystery in black. Hey, hey, no mystery in black. And so one of the things we want to say is that Black history, am I okay without a mic? You hear me pretty good?
Yes.
So you hear me well? Okay. So Black history, we just talked about how, it was, labeled and founded nationally, but it did not start in America. Right? So it came from the homeland. And so when we go back to Africa, and we think about Africa and our homeland, I'm gonna tell a story that Mr. James wrote, and it's called The Drum Story, right? And so, in using the oral tradition to tell the stories in West Africa, it would be accompanied by music. It could have been string instruments, whistles, horns. And then there was the largest of all instruments, of all African instruments, both in sound and size. It's the log drum. So they would take a log and you carve it out, you burn it out, and you put slits in the wood. And they would play the messages. It was the voice of the people, the Yoruba, the Hausa, the Igbo, the Fulani, the voice of the people, the voice of the world, sending messages. It was the heartbeat, the log drum. They called it the log drum, the kahimbe drum, the percussion beat. Now, it could be small, or could be very large. It could be as long as this row. And when they would put the slits in it, then different drummers would play different pitches and different tones in different places. The larger the drum, the louder the sound, and the further it would travel, from drummer to drummer, to village, drummer to drummer, village to village, using it to send messages. The Pygmy Nation, they would use it, and they would play it to awaken the forest and to celebrate in their happiness. The messages were sent for celebrations of births and deaths. become an ancestor on this day. The drum, the large drum, was then sized down as well to become the slit gong, the slit drum. And they still had the slits at the top, but smaller in size. That's what you're hearing now, the slit gong and the slit drums. They still sent the messages. Messages of marriages, the egg carrying ceremony for the wedding. Messages of sports events and rites of passage. Ah, the future is bright. The messages could be sent about war cries, a cry to war. So it was sent by Ya Asantewaa of Ghana. The British was coming in to take their king from Ghana. And she said to the war, this warrior female said to the male warriors, you fear going to save your king? Oh, if it was the old days of Osei Tutu or Poku Ware the First, they would not sit by and watch their king be taken away. They would fight. And we will fight until the last of us falls in the battlefield. In South Africa, they called the drum the Vende. The Vende tribe called the drum Ngomo. In Kenya, in Fungu. In Nigeria, they called it the Ogororo. It was a heartbeat that sent the messages. The heartbeat that sent the messages. The first drum made in Africa. Thank you. And now I'm going to share a story with you from that region in West Africa. And it's a story that you probably know, but you might not know the real story of it. I'm sure you've heard of it. The Lion King?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's heard of the Lion King? What's the Lion King's name? Mufasa? Anybody got another name? Simba. So it came from Disney? Nope. Not? Disney, just like, you know, they made Pocahontas, right? And they showed that Pocahontas was, they put her in human form. But the Lion King, they put in animal form.
Yes.
The story comes from Mali, West Africa. It's a true story. And so I'll tell you a little bit of that story today. It comes from the same place where these drums were played. And then there was a specific drum that was made and designed, another whole family of drums, and you'll hear that in this story. It was the 1200s. And there was a king, his name was Makan Kamfata. Makan Kamfata, and oh, he ruled his people mightily, but with a good heart. So much so that the prophets who foretold the prophecies, they came to him and said, King, Makan Kamfata, you are going to have a son. And this son, he will be born to you and one of your wives. It would be Buffalo Woman. They called her Buffalo Woman because she had a hunch in her back. She was very comely looking. Her real name was Sogalan Keju. And they said, this child will grow to be one of the greatest kings of all time, written down in history perennially forever. And the male child was born. He grew to be 2 years old, but he still dragged his body along the ground. He grew to be 7 years old, and still he was dragging his body along the ground. He could not walk. He could not talk. And in the marketplace, they would throw fruits and vegetables at him and say, this boy is going to grow to be our king. And there was one woman in particular. Her name was Satsuma Borete. She was the king's first wife. And she never wanted this boy to grow to gain the throne. She thought that it was her son that should sit upon the throne. And so she ordered the root workers. And in Africa, they use the term witches, but it's not like the European witches. That's not how they use the term. When they use it, it's the root workers who would work with the roots, whether to cure or maybe even to place a curse. But then she ordered the root workers to go into the boy's mother's garden and to steal her fruit. But wait till the boy was watching. And then when he grew in anger, that was the time to place a curse upon him. And the root workers did as they were told stealthily. They were stealing the fruit and looking for the boy, placing it in their baskets. And he pulled up along the ground. The root worker said, there is no curse we can place upon this boy. His heart is much too kind. Satsuma Borete, oh, she didn't like this. And then there was the day that the boy's father, the king, called his prince son to him. Makankafata called his prince son and said, my son, on this day, I give to you the greatest gift that I can bear. My son, I give to you the greatest gift that I can bear. I give to you your jali. Say jali. Say jojo. Griot. Jelly. Griate. Umwagothi, umwadithi. You have just spoken many different languages that say the same thing. There are thousands of languages in Africa, but they say the same thing. He said, I give to you your storyteller. You see, the storyteller was very, very important in West African societies. They say sometimes more important than the queen. For it's the storyteller that would tell the king his legacy and the battles that went before him through what? Through story. It is the storyteller, the jali, the jojo, the griot, that would tell the people their role in that society and the morals and the values of that society through what? Through story. And so he gave Balafasike to his son. And Balafasike was a child that was raised in the Jelly family, in the Giabate family, the Jelly family. And the two were together all the time, the prince son and Balafasike. They were so close and they were together even when the day came when the prince's son laying upon the ground saw Satsuma Borete ridiculing his mother, Sogalan Keju. Your son, he will never be king. It won't be my son who sits upon the throne. Your son, he cannot walk, he cannot talk. Your son, he cannot even bring you fruit from the baobab tree. The baobab tree is one of the biggest trees trees not only on the continent of Africa and West Africa. It is one of the biggest trees in the universe. And the boys would pick the fruit and bring it to their mother. Your son cannot even bring you the fruit of the baobab tree. She walked away. And Sogalan came to her. She said, why? Why can't my son talk? Why can't my son walk? And witnessing this, Bala was next to Sundiata, and Sundiata looked up at Bala Fasike and said, Bala, go to the iron maker and ask him to make me a rod. Bala Fasike went straight away to the iron maker, and that's another family. So the family of iron makers, they forged an iron rod that was so weighted in strength that Bala could not carry it back by himself, and so they helped to take it back and lay it before the prince's son on the ground. And he placed it into the ground, and he put one hand over the other, and he began to stand. He started to stand, and people started to call forth his name. Sundiata! Sundiata Keita! Sundiata! Sundiata Keita! Walk, boy, walk! Walk, Sundiata, walk! Come on, come on! Sundiata! Sundiata! Walk, boy, walk! And Sundiata, he took one step at a time until he stood in front of the baobab tree. And he wrapped his arms around that baobab tree and he lifted from the ground. He walked towards his mother. Mother. And this time, she cried with tears of joy. But Sasuma Barete, oh no, she did not like this. And so she sent Bala Fasike, Sundiata Keita's friend, his Jali, away to the source of the king, Somengoru. And whenever Somengoru wanted to gain any village, he would kill whomever he pleased. Somengoru was the source of the king. And that's when Sogalan Keju knew that she must take her son away, for he was in danger in Mali. And so they traveled across the plains until they came to a place called Mima. And in Mima, a king accepted them in and watched that boy grow in strength and in wisdom. And it wasn't too long before people came and said, Sundiata! Sundiata, you must come home. Your father, he is an ancestor now. And Somengoru, he said he is coming. He is coming, and he will kill whom he wants in our village, but he's going to take the throne. Come home, Sundiata Keita, come home. And the king of Mima gave Sundiata a mighty army, and they rode across the plains. But who did he see when he was riding? His friend, his Jali, Bala Fasike. He had escaped from the source of the king. And straight away, Bala did his job. Jaliya. Say Jaliya. Say it again, Jaliya. Jaliya is the art of storytelling. And right away he told about the battles and the strategies and how they won. But then he started to tell the stories about the weaknesses of Somenguru, the strengths and the weaknesses. So that when Sujata Keita met Somenguru at Mount Karina, he shot a feather into the weakest part of Somenguru. And they say that he faded into the mountainside, and that's where Somenguru is to this day. Sujata Keita rode back home, victorious, into Mali. And he rode, come on, and he rode, and he rode. And the people, they called forth his name. They had made the djembe drum. And the djembe drum family, it was the djembe, and the juju, and the kinkini. And they played those drums, and they played, and they called forth his name. Sujata! Sujata Keita! Sujata! Sujata Keita! Come on! Sujata! Sujata Keita! The Lion King of Mali, an African man. Thank you. So you see, you can see the storylines, right? So you can see that you call forth Mufasa's name. So if you go to my story, and by the way, this story is told as an epic tale. There's many different genres of storytelling, right? There's fairy tales, there's folk tales, there's epic tales. Epic tales are told for days. And in Mali, this story is told for days, right? It takes days to tell the story. And so the jellies, they still tell the story, of course. And so they tell us everything. But if you look at it, right, you see, you mentioned the name Mufasa in the epic tale, in this tale, who was the real Mufasa? You might not can say his name, but who was it? But what character was he? He was who was the real Mufasa in real life? Who's the real Mufasa from Mali? Anybody want to say who it is? It's the king, Makan Kanfata, right? So the real Mufasa is Makan Kanfata. He's the king. When I first opened up the story, I said there was a king. He was going to have a son, right? Disney, who did I said root workers, right? I told you about the root workers who went to the garden. Who was that in the Disney movie? Do y'all remember the movie? Anybody remember the movie? No, not Rafiki. Not yet. Who else? Who else? Anybody remember the movie? You remember? The hyenas. Right. Now let's talk about Rafiki for a minute. Because I'm going to say, in my story, who did Rafiki represent? Who did Rafiki represent? I'm doing this for a reason, like, who did Rafiki represent? No. Rafiki was the monkey who kept passing on messages, right? And telling, right? So who did he represent? The storyteller. That's right, right? And then I'm gonna say that they put two of the characters I talked about into one. That's called a composite, right? And who did they do? Scar, right? Who made up Scar? Out of the story I told, who made up Scar? If you say two people from the story I told, who do you think was that evil? Who do you think was in the evilness of Scar? The first wife was one, and then the source of the king, Somenguru, was the other. So this is a true story and a true legacy. Sujata Keita is a true story. He is the true Lion King. He was called the Lion King of Mali. He had a descendant named Mansa Musa. Have you ever heard of Mansa Musa? Mansa Musa is known. He grew the kingdom, he grew Mali in wealth and riches beyond compare. To the point that if you look at Fortune 500, and they compare the wealthiest man to ever live in accordance with the weight of their time, and it's Mansa Musa. Fortune 500 says Mansa Musa is the wealthiest man who ever lived on the face of the earth. He is a descendant of Sundiata Keita. If you were to go online and you were to type and you look under ethnic music or world music, you would find Salif Keita, who is living today. He's an albino, but he is a direct descendant of Sundiata Keita. So that's a true story of the Lion King. So next time somebody asks you what's the name of the Lion King, and that was my final one, well, you're not going to say Mufasa. You're not going to say Simba. You'll say Sundiata Keita, and if you don't remember that, you'll say, I know it's an African man, I know he's from Mali, and I heard the story, and I know it's the truth. Thank you. So, we talked about those drums, right? What were you saying?
No, I was saying I didn't see Lion King. But
Oh, you didn't see the Lion King yet? Okay. All right, so now you'll see, if you watch it, you'll see you'll see how it follows the line of the story, what they did with it, right? So when we talked about the drums before and how the drums would play messages, when we were kidnapped and brought throughout the diaspora and here to America, we still brought some Africanisms with them. They call Africanisms if we kept them in our culture. And one of the things we kept was playing drums to send messages. But only when we were here, we weren't sending messages about who's being born or who died or rites of passage. We sent messages about escape by playing certain rhythms on the drums. And the messages were understood, like where to gather, where to meet, where to travel to. So we played those messages out on the drums. Well, they figured that out, so they outlawed the drums. If African Americans played drums, they could have their hands cut off or they could be killed. So they outlawed the drums. So at the point they outlawed the drums, that's when we start putting those rhythms into our hands and our bodies. You remember hand bone, right? So that's what, from putting, yeah, yes ma'am, hand bone, where you been? Pop, pop. Around the corner and back again. Right? So we started putting those messages into our hands and body, and I'm gonna show you. Yeah, she wants to keep going. I'm gonna buy you a mockingbird. Is that mockingbird don't sing? Yeah, pop. Ring don't shine. Yeah, man. Yeah. So once they took that away, like the drums, we started putting those messages into our hands. So let me show you 3 tones. There's many tones on the drums to send messages, but I'm going to show you 3. Well, Mr. James is going to show you 3. He's going to show you tone, and now we're going to put it into our hands. So cup your hands like so, right? And put them together. Don't look like you're going to go choke me. Just, right? And then, like, one's twisted. So when we bring our hands together, on 5, 6, 7, 8, we'll bring it together with a clap. 5, 6, 7, 8. Try it again. Okay. 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. That's tone. Now, they're all called tones, but there's a tone called tone. This is tone. Now we're going to do slap. Slap, please. Can you go on the drum? Yeah, here's what you say, slap again. So slap is your hands are flat like so. And we go slap. 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. You hear the difference between tone and slap, right? Let's do tone. 5, 6, 7, 8. Tone. Slap. 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Now the third one I'm going to show you is bass, right? And so bass, we're going to play the palm of our hands. And we're just going to hit our chest twice. Ladies, a little high. Okay? All right? 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So now you start putting it together to make a message, right? In a song. So we're going to go tone, tone, slap. 2 tones, 1 slap. 5, 6, 7, 8. Uh-oh. Too many slaps. Just 2 tones, 1 slap. Let's try it again. 5. We don't want to send the wrong message. Right? 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Nice and clean. Good. Now we're going to do tone, tone, slap, bass, bass. You ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So again, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, y'all good, y'all good. So I'm gonna show you the whole rhythm, right? And it goes tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, flam. Let's try that. Hands up. 5, 6, 7, 8. Tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, slam. And I'm gonna do it to timing, to the right time. 5, 6, 7, 8. Tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass. Okay. Y'all not ready. Okay. So I'm gonna slow it down just a little bit. Some of you getting there. Y'all really getting there. This is wonderful. So you're getting it, but I'm gonna slow it down just a little bit because we want to make sure everybody get it. All right, you ready? Come on, put your hands up. Tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, slam. That was good. Tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, tone, tone, slap, bass, bass, slap, bass, bass, flam. Oh, and the flam is like the double hit on the drum. That's flam. That's the flam, right? So now there's a song that goes with it. It goes like this. Time, time, greedy gut, greedy gut, greedy gut. Ate all the pie up, ate it up, gone. Time, time, greedy gut, greedy gut, greedy gut. Ate all the pie up, ate it up, gone. Sing. Time, time, greedy gut, greedy gut, greedy gut. Ate all the pie up, ate it up, gone. Sing. Time, time, greedy gut, greedy gut, greedy gut. Ate all the pie up. Put your hands up. Ate it up, gone. Here we go. Time, time, greedy gut, greedy gut, greedy gut. Ate all the pie up, ate it up, gone. Come on. Time, time, greedy gut, greedy gut, greedy gut. Ate all the pie up, ate it up, gone. What? Time, time, greedy gut, greedy gut, greedy gut. Ate all the pie up, ate it up, gone. Time, time, greedy gut, greedy gut, greedy gut. Good job. So we had other secrets as well. Like the quilts. Everybody know about freedom quilts? So, oh, and I took it out and I didn't bring it. So freedom quilts, they stitched quilts. Those quilts are Africanism. They stitched quilts in West Africa, right? And they had patterns in West Africa. And they were just patterns. But once they became patterns here, the patterns had a message. So like if you see a quilt that's still stitched, it has one square here, a square here, a square here, and a little one in the middle, or paws like this, it's called the bear's paw. And it meant if it was hanging out on the Underground Railroad, there was time to take the tracks up into the woods. There's some that have satins and bow ties, on, that's the way they stitch. And it meant if that was hanging out, it's time for you to get out of the clothes when you were dressed up like you were enslaved and dressed up like you were already free because you're about to take the train into Canada. So each of the quilts, that was another coded message. That was another coded message. I'll teach you one more coded message. And this is a true call and response that happened during that time period. When I say a phrase, you say, yes, ma'am. John the Rabbit? Yes, ma'am. He had a mighty bad habit. Yes, ma'am. Stealing in my garden. Yes, ma'am. Eating all my cabbage. Yes, ma'am. Now if I live to See next fall, I ain't gonna have no garden at all. Very good, very good. Now this time, don't speak to yes ma'am. I need you to clap for yes ma'am. Don't speak it. John the rabbit, well, had a mighty bad habit, stealing in my garden, eating all of my cabbage. And if I live to see next fall, I ain't gonna have no garden at all. Very good, very good. This time, don't speak it, don't clap it. I want you to stomp the yes ma'am.
Okay.
All right? Here we go. John the rabbit, who had a mighty bad habit, stealing in my garden, eating all of my cabbage. And if I live to see next fall, I ain't gonna have no garden at all. Very good, very good. Now this time, put all three together. Speak it and clap it and stomp it at the same time. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. Now, yes, ma'am. Are you ready? Yes, ma'am. Say yes, ma'am. Are you ready? Yes, ma'am. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. John the rabbit. Yes, ma'am. I had a mighty bad habit. Yes, ma'am. Stealing in my garden. Yes, ma'am. Eating all of my cabbage. Yes, ma'am. And if I live, yes, ma'am, to see next fall, yes, ma'am, I ain't gonna have, yes, ma'am, no garden at all. Yes, ma'am. I said John the rabbit. Yes, ma'am. I had a mighty bad habit. Yes, ma'am. Stealing in my garden. Eating all of my cabbage. And if I live to see next fall, I ain't gonna have no garden at all. Said John the rabbit had a mighty bad habit, stealing in my garden, eating all of my cabbage. And if I live to see next fall, ain't gonna have no garden at all. All right. So we're talking about coded messages, right? So what? I'm not talking about rabbits. And I'm not talking about cabbages. So let's break it down. Because this is a true call and response in our tradition, from our tradition during the enslavement period. John the rabbit had a mighty bad habit of stealing. So what's that line saying? It's not talking. Yes. Say it again. The people. Somebody was stealing the African people. They had a bad habit of stealing the African people. That's what that line is about. Yeah. But if I didn't see next fall, they're saying I'm not going to worry about it anymore. What are we about to do? What are they about to do?
Run away.
That's right. They're about to escape. They're about to escape. And right in the middle of the song it says where they're going to meet to start to escape. John the rabbit had a mighty bad habit stealing in my garden, eating all my cabbage. Where were they going to meet? In the garden, in the cabbage, right? And they use that song to teach the smallest of children how to follow direction. Right? Because you had to follow direction. Because if anybody didn't follow direction, it jeopardized everybody getting caught. That's why Harriet always carried a gun. She never used it, but she wasn't going to let one person jeopardize everybody being caught. And so, y'all did a fine job. Y'all didn't get another call. Y'all followed the direction. Good job. Good job. I'll tell you another story, and then we're going to end outside of the enslavement period. But I'm going to tell you this story, and maybe you heard this story too before. So, we're talking about, when we did our messages and things like that, we're talking about resilience. We're talking about resistance, right? We are resilient people, right? And right after Nat Turner's rebellion, y'all heard, anybody ever heard of Nat Turner before? Anybody? Okay, so right after Nat Turner was in Virginia, and the enslavers, man, they rose with fear. So things, I don't know how you can say enslavement got any worse, but it got worse. They rose because their fear rose. And so during this time, there was somebody named Henry Brown. Anybody ever heard of Henry Brown before? You heard of Henry? He has a middle name. You know his middle name? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Henry, and what's your name? What's your name? Monica. So Monica knows Henry's middle name. Does anybody else know Henry's middle name? His middle name is Box.
What would that?
Box.
Oh, wow.
So let me tell you why. Henry Box Brown. Henry Box Brown. Escaped to freedom, I got his fame. Shipped in a box, I got his name. Henry Box Brown. Come on. Henry Box Brown. Yes. Escaped to freedom, I got his fame. Shipped in a box, I got his name. One more time. Henry Box Brown. Call his name. Henry Box Brown. Yes. Escaped to freedom, I got his fame. Shipped in a box, I got his name. Henry Box Brown was living just at the time after the Nat Turner Rebellion. He was living in Virginia. And then Henry was owned, he had an owner, so he wasn't slave. But his owner allowed him to work at the factory in Richmond. And he could work at the factory in Richmond and earn, you know, an income. While he was at the factory and working during that time, he fell in love. He fell in love with Nancy. And Nancy's owner said, when he wanted to marry Nancy, he said, I will allow the marriage if Henry's owner promises never to sell Henry. Because Nancy's owner said, I don't believe, you know, in breaking up families, you know. And so Henry's owner said, we won't sell, you know, I won't sell Henry. And so Nancy and Henry was married. But then Henry's owner sold Nancy. Sold him to a man named Joseph Colquitt, who bought Nancy for his wife. And for no uncertain reason, none at all, the wife didn't like Nancy. So she said, get rid of her. And she was sold again. But then, when Nancy was gone, she just couldn't seem to manage without Nancy. And said, buy her back. And he had to buy her back for $50 more than what he sold her for. Then Nancy was sold again. And this time, this owner said, Henry, I'll buy your wife, and I need $50 more, though I have $600, she's $650. I need $50 more. If you give me that $50, I will buy your wife and never sell her. After all, I'm Presbyterian and I don't believe that the family should be separated. So Henry gave him the $50. And then he asked for more money, and more money, and more money. You have to build a home for your family. And he had to build a home until he asked, until there was nothing else to give. There was nothing else to give. And one day somebody came running to the factory to Henry. Henry! Henry, your wife and children are being sold. They're being sold to the Carolinas. And Henry ran out. He ran down to the square. And we said, there he is. There's my father. I knew he would come. I knew he would come to bid me farewell. And then he saw his wife and the coffle gang of women, chained, walking along the street. And he got to Nancy, and he held her hand. He wanted to say goodbye, but he couldn't utter it. He couldn't utter it. So he walked, held her hand until he could walk no further and let her go. And Henry said inside, give me liberty or give me death. And he prayed to his Lord, give me liberty or give me death. There must be a way out of this bondage. And it came. A box. Henry Box Brown. Henry Box Brown. Escaped to freedom, got his fame, shipped in a box. that he had help him out. One was a free black man, right? And the other one owned the store, and he was a white man who owned the store. The free black man he sent to Philadelphia to the Anti-Slavery Society with the $49 of the money that he had saved to tell them that he was coming, and that he was coming in a box. And the owner, he asked the owner to order the box of the store, and he said, "Oh, Henry, is this box for your clothes?" And Henry said, "This box is for Henry Brown." And then the day came when it was time for Henry to be shipped. It was 6 by 3 by 2. 6 by 3 by 2. And so Henry got in the box with a biscuit and a water bladder and a gimlet so that he could drill holes. And once he drilled the holes, it was closed shut by Mr. Smith, and he wrote, "This side up." Loaded it into the wagon, this side up, took it down to the steamboat, and it was loaded into the cargo area, but not this side up. And Henry Box Brown turned upside down, his eyes were bulging, and he could, the holes, he could barely breathe. He said inside, "Give me liberty." And 2 men came in and they said, "We've been on this here ship for 200 miles and 20 minutes, and so why don't we sit down for a while?" And they turned that box right side up. And one man said to the other, "What do you think is in this box? Mail?" And inside, Henry said, "Yes, it's mail. Not M-A-I-L, but M-A-L-E. It's mail." He's thinking to himself, you know. And then when it was taken out and loaded to get ready to go onto a train, it was called out, "No more room for that package. Give me liberty, or give me death. It has to go." It came with the mail. And so it was loaded in. And Henry arrived 27 hours later in Philadelphia. And it was William Still out of, alongside New Jersey, and William Passmore, or James Passmore, and others, they stood around the box. But they were so fearful because they didn't know what could have happened in this amount of time. A man survived in a box. They knocked on the box. All right within. All right, sir. Henry Box Brown. Come on. Henry Box Brown. Escaped to FEMA, got his fame, shipped in a box, so we got his name. Henry Box Brown. Come on. Henry Box Brown. Escaped to FEMA, got his fame. What? Shipped in a box, so we got his name. So thank you. There's so much more. And I just want to say this, that usually at other times I tell, we go further along the line in Black history, because what happens in our schools, they hear, in our schools, is you kind of get the enslavement period, Harriet Tubman, and Martin Luther King.
Yes.
Nothing happened, so I start with Africa to let you know, first of all, it started before that. And then we can come into this period of enslavement, but there's a lot in between. And so we like to share that history as well. And I'll just share one to go out that's, way further down the line. Because I don't know if you're aware of this person, so I like to share things that are new and different. So let me try. So who was the first to enter the baseball league? First Black person to enter the major league?
Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson, right? Jackie Robinson. Okay, so he was, before he was in the Negro baseball leagues, right? So, you know that there were women in the Negro baseball leagues?
Yeah.
You knew that? Yeah. You know any of their names, anybody? Okay.
No.
I'm gonna share one with you, okay? So there's something that you might want to remember. Maybe Peanut Johnson's name is on the Negro Baseball League Wall of Fame. Maybe Peanut Johnson, she was born with a baseball in her hand. She could bat a ball, no doubt, but her claim to fame was striking them out. 5'3" with a wind-up, come at your pitch. Love that leather ball with the baseball stitch. Maybe Peanut Johnson's name is on the Negro Baseball League Wall of Fame. Maybe Peanut Johnson, she was born with a baseball in her hand. Batter up was the call in town when she eyed that strike zone from her down. She could throw a fastball, a slider, a curveball too. A circle change up, come right through. Baby Peanut Johnson's name is on the Negro Baseball League Wall of Fame. Baby Peanut Johnson, she was born with a baseball in her hand. The first female pitcher in the Negro Baseball League from Long Branch, New Jersey, with her right strong arm indeed. The Indianapolis Crowns is where maybe Peanut Johnson laid her dreams. Maybe Peanut Johnson's name is on the Negro Baseball League Wall of Fame. Maybe Peanut Johnson, she was born with a baseball in her hand. Maybe Peanut Johnson, what's her name? Maybe Peanut Johnson, say her name. Maybe Peanut Johnson, let me hear you, come on. Maybe Peanut Johnson's name is on the Negro Baseball League's Wall of Fame. Maybe Peanut Johnson, she was born with a baseball in her hand. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. You have any questions? Anybody have a question? Yes, ma'am.
I was born in New Orleans in the 60s.
Yeah.
And